Guys, am I live here with you? Am I there with you or not? I think I'm live. Please say hi, hello, something. Yeah, hello. Mantrala is also here. Hi, Divya. Hi, Mantrala. Good to see you all here. Okay. Why is it not working? I'm trying to work it. Just 1 minute. Guys, give me 1 minute. Okay, fine. I think I need to do it once again. Yeah, now it's working. Finally. Pick with the turban. You got into chess, else I could have been model or a Bollywood hero. Atul. Thank you, thank you. So very few have come. Everyone is scared today because they thought that today there will be the test. Really, we are fearless. Great. And Mantrala, yesterday you were talking about some like coaching, and you can contact me on my email ID if you want to. My email ID I have written in description also, and my email ID is atuldahale64 at the rate gmail.com. Okay. Yesterday I was going to tell you, but you left before that, I think, because I already told other people also. So more people might join us. So more people might join us. So let's start with the tactics now, and then we will see our today's topic. That is the power of major pieces. That is Queen and a Rook. So can you see the board properly? I hope you can. Yeah, it's fine. It seems to me that it's fine. So knight e3 is suggested by Divya. Okay, right now. So upstream will join after I send a mail to you, Atul. Okay, fine, fine. So knight a3 is suggested by you. Definitely we should play this move, and after this what we should be playing? We should capture the rook, right? Yeah, we should capture the rook in this case, and then we will be rook up. Okay, next few minutes we will solve tactics for more 5 minutes. This is black to play. What to play? Hi Shahid. One move suggests itself that in this position we must play knight's move because our queen will be opened up after that move. Don't you think so? Yes, knight to the c2 must be played in this position because once you play knight to the c2, after next move we can play queen to the d3 and it will be a check and mate. And if we play, even if we play king to the f1, in that case we can play queen to the d1 and it will be a check and mate. Okay, very good. So it is white to play once again, and what to do? Today might be our like after this I will be taking a break, I think, because I already suggested that I will be there for 11 days. So today is the 11th day, or you can say the final day, and then we will be having a break between our streams. Okay. Okay, now bishop into h7 is suggested by Divya here. Okay, if you play bishop into h7 here, king into h7, now we should be capturing the rook here and we will be winning. Fine. So I think for maybe for this, because 11 days is something which I have planned, and after this I will take a little bit break, and then after that we will start with something new, or maybe I will continue with the middle game series only, but with some interesting topics, because I also need a little bit rest time. Okay. I hope you understand, because in the morning and at night, like evening time, I'm doing streams every day, so I need some rest. Okay, Tina, knight h5 is suggested by you. Divya is also suggesting knight to the h5 definitely, and we will be winning the queen in that case. And okay, okay, this is black to play, and after this we will start with our today's topic, that is the power of major pieces in the game of chess. Yes, Shahid, you are right about that thing. It is something which is very interesting topic, I will tell you. Anand Timan game. I have seen some games, but I don't remember exactly Anand Timan game is which you are talking about. Okay, here rook to the b4 should be played here. Absolutely right. And then we should just capture the pawn, and then we can capture the rook, and then we should be able to win after this. Okay. So now we can start with our today's topic. Before we start, I would like to tell you that okay, when we have, don't tell me the moves. Okay, okay, don't tell me the moves. The thing is that in chess we know that major pieces means obviously rook and the queen, and there are some scenarios in which you can take advantage of the position when you have the major pieces on the board. One thing is that when we have major pieces, our opponent's king can be weak, and then it will be very difficult for him to defend the position in that case. Another thing is that when we have a passed pawn in the position, that also in that position, if we have major pieces on the board, then it will be very difficult for our opponent to stop our passed pawn. Even if he creates any blockade, then also we know that we can take some breakthrough, and then it will be a difficult position. Another scenarios when we are dealing with the major pieces is like there might be a little bit weakness in our opponent's camp, and if we put major pieces on that particular weakness, then it will be difficult for our opponent to protect that weakness. And even if he protects that weakness, and we know this thing that we can create another weakness on the other front of the game, and then we will be having a better position. And the most important factor, okay, most important factor when we are playing with the major pieces is the open files, because as we have seen earlier also, rooks belong to the open file, queen also belong to the open file, and the most important factor is like when our pieces means the rook or a queen are occupying the open file, then our opponent will be little bit helpless, because in the cases which we are going to see, only major pieces are there on the board. Okay, there will not be any minor piece on the board, so occupying the open file will be very very important in this case. Okay, hello Shivendra. So let's start with this game today, which is there on the board. And in this position, you can see that black is pawn up in this position, but his king is little bit weak, right? His king seems to be. Hello, hello Abhishek. Okay, so here in this position, black tried to defend his position, but he failed to defend because there are certain threats around his king, that queen g8 is coming, queen h8 is also coming, and this king is feeling a little bit uncomfortable in this position. So you can say that this position is already slightly, like, maybe objectively speaking it will be equal, but if you are playing in this position from black side, then it will be very difficult for you to play because your king is constantly under pressure. Okay, so I'll just show you what happened in the game. This game was played in 1976 between Sveshnikov, a very famous player who invented the Sveshnikov opening, and Karasov was the opponent's name. So in this position, black played rook to the f7, and in this like, after this rook to the f7, white played queen to the g8. Obviously he wants to attack the king, and here king h6 obviously is not possible because the rook is hanging. So he played king to the f6 in this position. So after rook to the f6, white played a very silent move. Okay, he played a very silent move, that is the h4 in this position, blocking this king's part to go to the g5 square, and now this king will be in the center of the board for a long time. Okay, here black played queen to the c6, and now queen to the h8. This is what I was talking earlier also. You can give queen g8 check, queen h8 check, and then it will be difficult position. So he played king to the e6. Hello Mayur, nice to see you. So here white threatened a very nice move. He played queen to the b2, threatening rook to the b6 in this position. Okay. Acha acha. Okay. Nice to see you. And here in this position, he played e3 check, king to the h2. But e3 check is a little bit okay. In this position, once this queen's king e6 is played in this position, already black is in trouble. Now queen to the b2. Now rook b6 threat is not going to stop anyhow. Okay, he played e3 check, king to the h2, and e into f2. Okay, now black is winning the pawn on the next move. So my question for you is, what will you play in this position from white side? Yeah, which move will you play? Will you capture the pawn on f2, or will you play rook to the b6 in this position? You have two options, I will say. Here, this is also one of the option, or you can play rook to the b6. You need to calculate a little bit. Okay, queen into f2. Okay, that is your option. Okay, Shahid is suggesting capturing the pawn. Does anybody wants to play rook to the b6 in this position? Because see, one thing is there, after rook b6 in this position, if you play rook to the b6, that is actually the best move in the position. If you play rook to the b6 in this position, black is not having any chance to capture on b6, because after queen into b6, it will be a check and we will be capturing the pawn on f2. Okay, so obviously this position will be lost. After, maybe, let's suppose you play king anywhere, we will just capture the pawn, and this rook against the queen should be winning for the side which is having the queen. So obviously black will not capture there. So here in this position, black had planned to play f1 queen. Okay, no, we have just started. So here white play rook into c6, and you can see the queen is there, the rook is there, black is having one extra pawn. But the thing is that black's king is terribly weak in this position. It is completely exposed in this situation. Jot, yeah, he will not capture. But now here white is about to checkmate black's king, and he played king to the d5. And in this position, in this position, white came up with a very nice move. Can you find a good move from white side? Okay, this is a tactical position, I will say. Okay, Okay, I will tell you. Queen to the b6 you want to play, okay, but if you play queen to the b6 in this position, then you should pay attention to your king also. Let's suppose you play queen to the b6, then I will be very happy from black side to give you check. Then you will play king to the here, then again I will give you check, and the white king will not run away from the checks and the game will be drawn in this case. So you need to be careful because black is also threatening something in this position. Okay, queen b3 you suggested. Okay, okay, okay. But if you play queen to the b3 in this position, queen b5 also if you play, okay, queen b5 or queen to the queen b5 means I will capture your rook here, and then if you capture my rook, then again it will be a draw from black side, or maybe black will try to win also, but I will say that okay, it will be a draw because of check 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 perpetual check. And if you play queen to the b5, which you were suggesting Abhishek, the queen is actually attacking the b5 square, so you cannot really play it. The main point is like your rook is hanging and you need to take care of your rook. Once the rook is taken care, in that case, okay, once the rook is taken care, then there is a threat of queen to the a2 and we will be attacking the f7 rook. Yes, first play rook to the c1. Mayur, you are absolutely right in this position. Once you play that rook, queen to the d3. Okay, here again, if you play queen to the a2 trying to capture the rook here, then again it is not possible for you because after this move, we can play queen to the d2 and we will capture the rook on c1. Okay, so you need to have patience in this position. In this position, if you have patience, then obviously this king is very very weak. Sorry, the king on d5. So you should play rook to the c3. This was move in sleep state. Okay, so here he played queen to the d4 and now queen b5 check. And now it is very difficult position for him. He played king to the e6, now queen to the e8, rook e7 check, rook c6 check, and now it is lost position for black because if he moves the king forward to the d5 square, can you tell me how will you win in this position? Okay, thank you Mantrala. Because you have only one move to win in this game and you need to be very cautious while playing the moves. You need to take care of your pieces which are hanging, of your other pieces also from your opponent side which are hanging. Okay, queen d8, yes exactly Shahid, we should play queen to the d8 in this position giving the check. And now if he plays somewhere like king anywhere on e5 or e4 in this case, then he will lose the rook on e7, and if he captures the rook on c6, then he will lose the queen. Okay, in the game he played queen to the d6, but that will also not save him because the queen is just hanging. And after queen to the g8 check, king e5, the game they played for few moves, but then without the queen he just lost the game. Okay, I hope like this was just the example which I wanted to show you, like when the king is exposed, what happens. But when we are playing with the major pieces, the most important thing is like we need to calculate very properly because our opponent can get a chance to give you check, check, and it will be a draw at any moment. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I will check it, Krishna, for sure. So okay, next position we will see, and in this position, this game was played between Yasser Serevan and Kirill Georgiev. Both players now are very top players in the world. Like not now, but at that time they became. Like Yasser Serevan even crossed 2700 rating, and Kirill Georgiev I have even seen him in playing in Spain, and he is about 2650 rated player. Okay, so this game was played back in 1986 in Dubai Olympiad when USA was playing against Bulgaria. Obviously, Yasser Serevan was from USA and Kirill was playing with the Bulgarian flag. So here, white player rook into d4, and now in this position you can see that okay, the position seems to be again little bit equal in this position. Yes, he is a coach of the US team or many people get okay. Here the thing is that now black played rook to the c3, rook to the d3, but after this move you can see the rook is little bit tied down because of the queen is sitting on this f3 square, and now our queen is free. This queen is also supporting this rook, and the king is little bit exposed. So in this position you need to take advantage of your opponent's king, which is weak. Okay, so to take advantage of this position, black played queen to the g1, then king to the f4 was played. Well, if you play queen to the e5 in this position, as suggested by Abhishek, we can play king to the g2, and I don't see any more checks in this position from black side, and the white's king will be safe in this position. What we should be doing is like we should to drag our opponent's king in the center of the board. If his king comes in the center of the board, then it will be exposed and we can take more advantage of that thing. That's why we should play queen to the g1 in this position. Obviously he cannot play queen to the g2 in this position because, as I mentioned earlier, the rook on d3 will be hanging in that case. So he must play king to the f4. Okay, so after king f4, again you should play a move which will drag him in the center of the board. So we should play rook to the c4 check. And now after rook to the c4, he has two moves. One is king to the e3 and another is king to the e5. So even if he plays king e3 in this position, it will not help him because the game will be over very quickly after queen to the c1 check. If rook d2 is played in this position, obviously we can play rook to the c3 and we will win the queen. And if he plays king to the c2 in this position, that will also not help him because rook c2 check will come and it will be a check and mate very soon. Okay, so here after this check he played king to the e5. Now tell me, what will you play? What will you play? As you have dragged him in the center of the board, now you need to have your queen in the game. You should bring your queen in the game now, so that you can give more checks also and you can threaten some checkmates. So how will you bring your queen, which is in the corner of the board, in the game now? Okay, Krishna is suggesting queen to the h2. Okay, queen h2 can be possible in this position. I don't deny that move, but after queen to the h2, maybe queen g3 is a possibility, and you need to again go back and again need to find out some good moves. Well, I got a better move now. Mayur has suggested queen a1 and Tina has also suggested queen a1. Absolutely guys, that is the move you should be playing, because if you play queen to the a1, the rook is not coming in the game anyhow, means it cannot stop it. So the king must move somewhere, and when the king will move, let's suppose he will move to the d5 square, then here it will be a very quick check and mate after queen to the f6. You will be surprised that why it is going to be a checkmate, because here whatever you play, let's suppose I will play g5 move, then queen c6 will be a check. If f6 is played, then so king e5 will be played, then f6 will be a check and mate. Okay, and it will be a check and mate. So in this position king d5 is not working, so white played king to the d6. Again you can say that the king hunt is going on in this position with the rook as well as the queen. So obviously we will play queen to the f6 in this position because we want our queen in the game. And this position, in this position, the king is almost, yeah, Mayur is on fire today. So king to the d7, and this position is already very difficult for white. Okay, I'll just go through the moves so that you will, because I don't want to explain everything in this only one game, because I want to show you more positions so that you will understand more things. Okay, black played queen to the b6 with the idea of rook to the c7 in this case. Now queen a8 was played, then rook c7 checked, king to the e8, and now he played rook d7. Now the threat of rook to the b8 is there, and the queen is also being trapped. And if he plays something like rook to the d8 in this position, my question is like, how will you play in this situation? Can you tell me how will you play? Look at this position. The king is usually on e1 square, but now he is on the e8 square. The times have changed, and this queen and the rook, which should be there on the other side of the board, they are not here. So what to do in this position? So how will you play in this position? Go Queen C7, I guess. Metin, yes. Mayur, you are on fire today. You are guessing the moves or maybe calculating the moves. Absolutely right. And after Queen to the C7, it's a mate in one, and White must give up the Queen with Queen into B7. And after that, just it's a just matter of technique. So obviously he did not play Rook to the D7, but White played Rook to the D7. In this, after Rook to the D7, Black played Rook to the B8, and he won the Queen and with the game after few moves. So in this game also we saw that the weak position of your king is very dangerous to play when the rook and the queen are there on the board. So the most important thing is like you should always try to keep your king safe when you are playing against rook and the queen. Okay. Okay, now what we will be doing is like most another important thing which I was mentioning. Can you tell me rook belongs to what? Just tell me what do you think? Rook belongs to what? Yes, rook belongs to open file, right? So when we have major pieces on the board, the queen and the rook, if you can occupy a open file, any open file if you can occupy, then it will be a very great thing for you. Even though if in the position everything seems to be equal, okay, means if the pawns are equal, everything is equal. But if you have the open, if you have the control of the open file, then you can say that you will get the initiative. Okay, so we will see one game which shows that the power, or you can say the if the control is there of the open file, then what really happens. Okay, so the next game is played between, I'll change it from, we will see from the white side. Since I am still CP, both right and left are working, so I am calculating a little bit but relying on intuition also. Rook belongs to the open file, definitely rook belongs to the open file. Okay, here Tigran Petrosian, who was very famous also in past, and he was the world chess champion also, was playing from the white side, and his opponents Fortish was playing from the black side. Okay, it was played in 1976 game, and black in this position played queen to the c7. Okay, so my first question for you is like, which move will you play by which you will be controlling the open file in this case? Definitely the open file in this case is d file, and black is trying to play rook to the d8 on the next move. So you need to play one move. And other thing is that in this position pawns are equal. Okay, the only edge white can get is like controlling the open file. So what will you play in this position? Yeah, we can play queen to the d4, or you can play queen to the d3. Both are possible in this position, and Petrosian decided to play queen to the d3 in this position, taking full control of the d file. Okay, yeah, queen d4 was also equally good. If you play queen d4 or queen d3, both are possible in this position, definitely. And now h6 was played, and Petrosian offered to exchange the queens, because if you exchange the queens in this case like this, then the rook is coming on the 7th rank, plus the pawn on a7 is a weakness. Yeah, then the rook is coming on 7th rank, a7 is a weakness, b5 will also be, if you play a6 some this kind of a move, then we will be playing rook to the a7, then this rook will be tied to defend the pawn on a6, and you can say that we have a pawn majority on the queen side. Then white will be very happy to bring the king towards the queen side, and then slowly and gradually he will push his pawn, and black's rook is little bit inactive in this case. Okay, so obviously Fortish did not go for the rook endgame in this position. So he played queen to the c5, just maintaining the queen on the board. But that is also not going to help him that much, because after this move he played, okay, I'll just tell you Petrosian what he did is like, first of all he grabbed the open file, Now he will be improving his position slowly and gradually. So he, to improve the position, he played rook to the d3. Now a5 was played. The idea of rook to the d3 was to come on the f3 square. That was his idea. So he played rook to the f3. Now black must play rook to the f8 to protect the pawn on f7. By playing this move and rook to the f3 and queen d7, the rook is now tied down to the f7 pawn defense. Okay, that is a small victory, you can say, from white side. Now white should also understand that what black wants to do in this position. Black wants to play b4 in this position, and he will try to undermine the pawn structure which is there on the queen side. This is called as the minority attack from the black side. So how will you stop the b4 breakthrough here in this position? You need to stop your opponent's ideas, and then you should go for your own advancement with your pawns. So which move will you play? Queen b7, if you play well. b4, now I see in rook d3, rook f3, not d4, in addition preventing the e5. Yeah, e5 is also prevented. Well, here in this position, white doesn't want to give up the d5's control. Okay, he doesn't want to give up the d5's control. That's why he maintained the queen there on the d5 for the time being, because he doesn't want to move it right now. So he played rook to the f4 in this position. Obviously now b4 is being controlled, and if black plays e5, then he can play rook to the e4. Now he is attacking the pawn on e5 here, and okay, obviously he wants to play f6 or something like that in this position, but playing f6 is also okay. Then we will be playing rook e2, rook d2, and we will be coming. So there will be slight weakness on this diagonal. Okay, so here in this position, black decided to play f pawn, but after some time, he played king to the h8 in this position. Then white again came back to the rook e3. Then f6 was played, and then he played rook to the d3. As I mentioned earlier, there is a weakness now, and white is now going to play rook to the d5 on the next move, attacking the pawn on b5. Okay, so he played rook to the b8, protecting the pawn on b5. Yeah. Now here in this position, Petrosian again tried to exchange the queens with queen to the d6. As any rook endgame he will go into, it will be beneficial for white, because white's king is very much like closer to the queen side, you can say, and black's king will take a little bit more time to come in the game. So whenever you can activate your king, you should go for the end game. Okay. Queen to the a7 was played. He played queen to the c7. Obviously, the idea is to play rook to the d7 in this position. Black played queen f7, and now rook d5. He is now attacking the pawn on b5, and he played queen to the g6. And now finally, after queen to the g6, white find out a nice way to play in this position. So which move will you play? Black actually missed. After queen g6, he is going to lose one pawn. So which pawn will you capture? Will you capture the b5 pawn, or okay, I will not tell you which pawn exactly. So can you tell me which pawn will you capture here? Yes, Tina, you are right. We should capture rook into e5 in this position, because capturing the b5 pawn seems to be a good move, but actually it will be not that great, because it might give your opponent to give you checks, and that is not something which white wants in this position. He doesn't want to come under any kind of checks. Yes, he doesn't want to come. So we can simply capture the pawn on e5, and there is no check in this position. And another thing is that black's pawn majority, which was there on the king side, now that majority is also gone. And all these things happened, he got the pawn also, because he was pressurizing his opponent. He was controlling the only open file in the position. Now this position is more technical now. Okay, so because white is pawn up, they continue with queen to the d3, then rook c5, then he played b4. Obviously, black will try to exchange the pawns on the other side of the board. So c into b4. A into b4, and now white played a4. Now he has a passed pawn, which is a very clear passed pawn because queen is controlling the a8 square, plus this rook is also there, and there is no check for white's king, and it is a very flawless position, you can say. Even if black gets any passed pawn also in this position, you don't need to worry because we can simply push our pawn and it will be a great position for white. Okay, we'll see what happened in the game. Queen to the b3 was played, attacking the pawn on b2. So white just played rook to the c2, protecting the pawn on b2. He played queen to the a2, now rook e2, then king to the h7. Now it's time to block all the activity on the king side. So remember one thing more about the major pieces. When you have advantage on one side of the board, okay, and if you cannot make any progress on that side of the board, what you should be doing is like creating a second front. That is also a very good technique you should remember. Creating a second front means what? Let's suppose in the war there is all the action is happening on one side, and you have some attackers and your opponent is also having some defenders on that side of the board, and everything is under control. But in that time, if you create any other attacking possibility on the other side of the like field, then your opponent will be very helpless because he cannot handle two things at the same time. So that's what you should be doing. That is called as creating a second front. So here white very calmly played h4 because he wants to create his own chances on the other side of the board. By playing h5, the king will be restricted, the king will not come in the game so easily, and there will be more chances if the rook comes on the e7 square, and the g7 pawn will also be weak. So here black played b3, okay, then queen to the d7 was played, king to the h8, and as I said earlier, the rook will come on the 7th rank, and now this king is feeling completely uncomfortable in this position. Obviously, black will not give up the pawn on g7. He played rook to the g8 in this position, and now white played a very simple move. He played queen to the d4, protecting the pawn on b2 and also protecting the pawn on a4. Okay, he played rook to the a8, then rook b7. Now b7, rook to the b7 means b3 pawn is about to fall in this position. He play rook to the e8, rook b5 because he wants to play a5 at some point. Okay, he play rook to the c8, then rook b4, rook g8. He's just waiting in this position, and after this move, rook to the a8, he played queen to the f3, and in this position, black just resigned because if he plays any move, any rook move, if he captures on a4, then rook b8 is going to be checkmate after queen f5 check, g6, and queen to the d7 check and mate. So obviously he cannot leave the final rank. If he plays anywhere with his rook, let's suppose e8, then we will win the pawn on b3. That is also not so good news for black. That's why he just resigned in this case. So Petrosian played in a very simple manner in this case. He just took the control of the open file. Then he attacked, or he even tried to exchange the queens, go into the end game, which is completely better for him. But his opponent did not go. And when the right moment happened, he even took the pawn and then he won the game in a very flawless manner. It was a very smooth game by Petrosian. He did not hurry for anything in this game. And that is what you should try to do. Control the file, go step by step. Okay. So I hope you like this smooth game by Petrosian. We will see one more game now. Okay. Now in this case, here black played h into g6 and the game converted into the rook and queen, that is the major piece end game. And in this case, Bronstein was black and his opponent was Poligevsky. Poligevsky, as we know, we have seen his games in the previous streams also, that he is a very strong player. So my question for you is like, in this position, obviously the D file is very important, right? As the pawns are equal, everything seems to be equal. In such cases, if you control the open file, then you can get a lot of play in the position. So what will you play in this position from white side? Which move will you play? Guys, if you are liking the games, please do like the stream so that more people will join us. That will be very helpful. Queen d3, and we'll try to action the queens. Yeah, in this case you would like to action the queens, definitely. But here in this position, Polugoski thought that, yeah, queen d3, and you would like to action the queens. I can understand your thing, but here in this case, the opponent's king is very near here, and he can defend. Okay. Another thing is that the a7 pawn is not that big weakness in this case. And even if you play queen d7 or queen d6 in this position, black is not like forced to capture anything, and there is no big weakness in black's camp. In the previous game there were weaknesses in black's camp, that's why exchanging the queens was difficult. And another thing was there in the previous game, like black's king was little bit away from the main action, but in this case the king is ready to come in the game, and white's king is not that much close to the center of the board, because even if you play this move or this move, the king is not able to come in the game because all these squares are controlled by black's pawns. So in this exactly in this position, it is not a wise decision to exchange the queens. So we should understand when to exchange the queens, when not to exchange the queens. Okay. So queen d3 and going for the exchange is not that good. So Polygoreski played queen to the d1, and he wants to penetrate on the d file with his rook now. So black played queen to the c6. Yeah, it's a equal position, but what we are trying to do is like we are trying to get small advantages in this position. Obviously the position is equal, but I will say that it is not completely equal, because white has the control of the open file, and when the major pieces are there, if you control the open file, then it gives slight advantage to you. Or maybe after some time, if your opponent makes some mistake or he is not controlling the weaknesses in his camp, then you will get a decisive advantage in that case. So obviously we should come on the 7th rank. Rook c7 was played, rook to the d6, queen to the e4, rook to the d8 check, king to the g7, and here white played h4. Everything is going smoothly, and remember this kind of moves, like in the previous game also h4 was played, in this game also h4 is played. Why this kind of moves are played? Because by playing h4 you stop your pawn's activity on that side of the board, because here g5 if black plays, then it will not be that much good move for him, because it will create a passed pawn also if white wants to do, and that will discourage black to play those kind of moves on that side of the board. So just play h4, you don't need to play h5, just maintain the pawn there and restrict your opponent's play on that side of the board. So black played queen to the c6. Okay, now as the queen has moved back, okay, as the queen has moved back, until now h4 was played just to restrict everything. Okay, but now because h5 in this position will not help much, because the queen was there to protect everything, and everything was safe, but the queen has moved back in this position. So white decided, Polygorsky decided to try to open up the position by playing h5, because he saw that he has some option in this position. And black was planning rook to the c8, but after h into g6, rook into d8, queen into d8, the game has converted, the game might be converted into the this kind of, but if you play this move, then we can play queen to the e7 and the pawn on f6 will be lost. So that is not something he can do. So here in this position black had to give up the pawn. So the main problem for black was his move to the queen to the c6. Because of this move, he has given white the chance to play h5, and after h5 he lost one pawn after this. Okay, after g into f6, the check was given. Only one check will be given. There will not be too many checks, and then everything is stopped. And now you can evaluate the position. What is really happening? Okay. Now what to do in this case? Still the pawns are equal, but the problem is that white's king is safe, but black's king is not that much safe. Another thing is that this queen on a2 is little bit away from the main action. So even though the rooks are exchanged, the activity of your other piece, that is the queen, is very very important in this case. So he played queen to the d7, king g6 was played, queen to the e8 check, king to the g7, and now he played queen to the e4. Because obviously if you capture queens in this position, then white will get the like one passed pawn on the king side, and it will be great position for him because black cannot create any passed pawn on the queen side. Okay, white safer than black. b3 falling, but a7 will also fall. Yeah, well, actually he did not give up the pawn on b3. He played queen to the a4 because queen side should be maintained in this case. If you exchange too many pawns in this case, then it will be uh, more likely a drawish position. So you should try to maintain the pawns on the board, and you should try to defend your weaknesses also. Okay, so queen b1 was played, then queen into a7. He played king to d6. Obviously we are giving with the check, and after this he played queen into b6, and we have got two pawns in this position, and the game was okay. Maybe here he played this move, and now queen into e6. Queen into f2 was played, and after this checks, queen h3 came, and the checks were stopped. And okay, white is 2 pawns up, and he won the game after some time. But I will tell you, queen endgames are a little bit tricky. Okay, because there can be perpetual check at any point of the time, so you need to be very tricky. So I'll just go through the moves because I want to show you other games also what really happened. Slowly and gradually, white improved the king's position. He is not allowing any checks to happen. Whenever the check comes, he will bring his queen in between. And now he played e4. Next idea is to play g4, g5 also, and the queen also. Another thing is that we are going to give this check, and the f6 pawn is also falling. So in this position, finally, black resigned because he is losing yet another pawn on f6. Okay, okay, fine. One more thing, we can see one more thing. Wait a minute, let me show you. Okay, another scenario is like when we have the passed pawn. Let's suppose we have the major pieces on the board, and any one side has the pawn, passed pawn. In that case, that the passed pawn becomes very very dangerous, because when the major pieces are there, you can control queening square, and we can back up the pawn from behind. Usually that happens, and usually the defenders are minor pieces, right? Like if you see anytime, like defenders means to blockaders, you can say blockaders are knights or the bishops, and they are the best blockaders. But when major pieces are blocking, then it is little bit difficult. So we will see from one game that why it is so difficult blockading with the major pieces. Just give me a second, guys. And putting the position, this is the position on the board. Now here in this position, you can see black has a passed pawn on the c5, right? And another thing is that white's king is little bit weak also in this position. Okay, weak. So here white captured the pawn on a7 as he was on the move, and black just pushed his pawn. Okay, white played rook to the c7, and it is said that whenever your rook comes behind the passed pawn, yeah, so it is said that whenever we are playing the game, if your rook comes behind the passed pawn, then it is a good news for you. But the thing is that this pawn is already too much advanced in this position, and our queen is there on the d2 square. It is controlling the very important c1 square, which is the queening square in this case. Okay, so I will ask you, like, how will you play in this position? Can you tell me a plan of action? What should be played from black side? I'll give you some time to give me at least one, like whatever you think. Just tell me any move, any plan. What will you like to play in this position from black? Yeah, black side. Exactly. Black side I'm asking. What will you play from black side? Because you have a pass pawn in this position and you should be winning in this position for sure. Means you need to take advantage of your pawn. Means at least whenever we are having the passed pawn, one thing remember that your opponent will be in too much of pressure and it will be difficult for him to defend the position. So all you need to do is like keep on pressurizing your opponent. Okay, I'm not saying that black is completely winning in this position, but it is black who has the maximum chances in this position. Okay. Okay, f5 is suggested by P and John in this position. Okay, f5 if you play, then one thing is there that you are exposing your king in this set. So you should not expose your king unnecessarily. Okay, because white can simply play queen to the e7 and it will be very difficult for black to defend against queen into g7 check and mate. So he cannot really defend. I don't think so there is any defense with the queen to the e7 because this queen is completely out of the game and the g7 pawn is not at all going to be protected in this case. So f5 will be a suicidal move. Don't open up the position. If you open up the position, then you will give chance to your opponent. Okay. Okay. EV2, rook v2 and second back rank pressure to castle. Yes, here in this position we should play rook to the b2, just pressurizing white's king side so that this rook will not come in the game. That is the main idea of rook to the b2. And we are not opening the position just right now. So here white played h3, then obviously we should push our pawn which is a passed pawn. So black played c2 in this position. Obviously on the next move we might be playing something like rook to the d8 or even queen to the d1 is also very strong threat in this case, because if you play queen to the d1, white will not be able to capture the ball like queen on d1. So that is our threat. White played f5 and as per the threat we played queen to the d1, right? Now it is already too much difficult for white to defend the position. Here white played queen to the g2, and now how will you increase more pressure in the position? Which move will you play? Obviously c1 queen is not that good, because if you play queen to the c1, then white will be playing rook into c1. That is not good for you. So you need to give more support to the c1 square. So what will you play here in this position? Guys, I'm waiting for your answer. Yes, Abhishek, you should play rook to the b1 in this position, because next move you are going to play c1 queen. Yes, rook b1, p and John, you are right. Abhishek, you are also right about this move. And okay, white is completely helpless. He tried to play something. He played d5 in this position. Now, if you play c1 queen in this case, then also it is a mistake. Okay, because white can play rook into c1, rook into c1, and then you will lose the queen with rook into d1. So you need to have patience. You need to think what your opponent is going to play. So here, which move will you play? Because your opponent is also trying to create his own passed pawn in this case. So you need to be very patient in this case. Yes, c1 is a mistake, Krishna. But as per like you have gathered the pieces at the right places, your pawn is there, which is very very strong, and white's pieces are tied down now. The rook cannot move anywhere. The queen cannot go anywhere. Only thing is that white is having his passed pawn which is there on the d file. But we should not worry about that pawn. We can play slowly and gradually, and all you need to do in this position like bring your last piece which is not playing in the game. So in this position the rook on f8 is not playing. So we must bring this rook in the game. Rook 8, rook a1, okay. But rook 8, rook a1, if you play rook to the a8, the thing is that after, okay, this might be also possible for you, but d6 is one of the moves which I think is there. Yes, rook 8, rook a1 was also a possibility. There is nothing wrong. But here in this position, black decided to play in a little bit different way. He decided to play rook b8. His idea was to play queen d3, play rook into f1. Whatever you capture, he will play rook to the b1 and then he will queen the pawn. Okay. So here opponent played d6, then queen d3 was played. The idea is quite clear. We want to capture everything here and then play rook to the d1 and we want to queen the pawn. White played d7 and here he played rook into f1, queen into f1. As the d8 square is already controlled by this queen, we don't need to play anything else. We just play rook to the b1 and the queen will be lost in this case. Because even if white plays rook to the c8 check, we can play king to the c8. And if queen is done in this case, we can capture queen into, okay, we can play queen into f1 also. Otherwise, we can capture the queen also. That is also good for us in that case. So queen f1, he will play king to the h2 and we can play queen to the g1. It will be a check and mate. So when we have major pieces and in that also if we have a passed pawn, then it becomes very difficult for our opponent to defend the position, especially if we are controlling the queening square in that case. Okay. So in this position, black built up the position. He slowly and gradually pushed his pawn, and then when the right time came, he brought the last piece in the game, and then he was winning. So you need to calculate a little bit, but always try to place your pieces on the squares where they will be exerting more and more pressure in the case. Okay. So let's look at one more game. Okay, here check was given. King g7 was played. Now you see on the board pawns are equal, right? But white has a passed pawn on the d7 square, and black's rook is completely tied down there on the d8 square. So here you need to make the progress. But how will you make the progress in this situation? You need to have a plan of action in this position. So what will you plan in this case? That matters a lot. So what will you play in this case? What plan will you do? It is quite good position for white. There is no doubt about it. But you need to plan something in this position. No, no. It is white to play. Rook f8 if you play. Okay. It is if it's black to play then rook f8 then I will maybe play something else. But obviously back rank checkmate problems are there. Okay. I'll give you some time to just let me know about the plan. It is white to play in this position. Okay. But white can always defend the back rank with play with the move h3 and there will not be any back rank checkmate problems. The trump in this position, or you can say the best part in this position from white side is the pawn on the d7 square, which is a clear passed pawn. Yeah, you need to practice more, definitely. Okay, guys, are you going to tell me something, some move, or should I explain in this position? Well, as you have king, no, 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 no. Mayur, in this position, it is not black to play, it is white to play. Sorry. Okay. So here in this position, the check was given and then king g7 was played. I will explain it to now. The thing is that as Abhishek was already mentioning, the rook f8 and the back rank checkmate problems are there with the queen to the f1. So the best thing you should do when you are playing against the major pieces, you can say, always have a space to for your king to move around, because back rank checkmate problems are very serious. So white doesn't need to worry about anything because he has a very strong passed pawn on the d7 square. All he needs to do, like, do something about the blockader that is on the d8 square. We'll go step by step and we will see what we can do. So here first of all white played h3. So now after h3 the rook will never come in the game. The moves like rook f8 or any rook move is not possible in the move. The rook is forever trapped there, because whenever the rook moves, we will be very happy to play d8 queen in this case. So he's not going to play that. Okay, here black played queen to the e7. Now it's time for us to create a second front. Second front means what? We want to try something, means we need to create a weakness on the other side of the board. So white played a4 in this position because he wants to expand on the queen side. If the pawns are weak on the queen side of the board, then white can capture the pawns one by one here and here. Obviously, he'll play queen b7 and then queen a7, and he will capture the other pawn also. Then he will be clear pawn up in this case. So here, black played a6. Now queen to the d4 check. Queen f6 was given. Now queen to the e4. This position is just little bit better for white. It is not completely winning it, but we will try to improve the position slowly and gradually. So black played b5, and b5 is a little bit weakness in this position, because weak move. Why? Because white can play a5, and once the pawn on a6 will fall in this case, the pawn on a5 will become another passed pawn in this case. Okay. Yeah, so here black played h5, then queen to the e8 was played. This is something which we played in the previous example also. We always try to play your queen to the d, like on the last time, because your opponent cannot capture the queen, because if he captures the queen, he will lose the blockader which is there, in this case the rook on d8. Okay, so h4 was played. Now it's time to play rook to the e1, so that we can bring the rook on the 7th rank, and this king will be very uncomfortable in that case. So he played king to the h6, trying to go away from all the checks. Okay, so now it's time to attack it another pawn with rook to the e4. One minute. Black played king h5 in this position, and now white played king to g1, queen a1 check was given, king to the h2, queen f6, and now he played rook to the e6. Now the g6 pawn will be under pressure. So obviously black will always try to give checks. He played queen to the f4 check, king to the g1, queen to the c1 check, and now rook to the e1. There is no check in this position, and the thing is that the rook on d8 is still hanging. So there are two options. He can play queen to the g5, or he can play queen to the c7. But if you play queen to the g5, obviously we will be very like rook to the e5 will come and the queen will be lost in that case. We'll play that move so that it will be more clear here, and we will be playing rook to the e5. That is not so good for him. So he played queen to the c7 in this position, and after queen to the e2, king h6, queen e3 check was given, king was played here. And can you tell me what will you play in this position so that you will get the advantage? It's trying to bring your last piece, like in this case the rook on e1 into the game. So how will you bring this rook in the game? Yeah, the rook on d8 is dead in this case. Where will you place the rook on e1 so that it will come in? Look at this king, which is very exposed in this case. So all you need is, you need to bring the rook in the game and you will be having a great position. You need to imagine something like, where should you place this rook so that you can give the check to your opponent's king, which is sitting on the h5 square. Okay, you want to play queen to the f3, king h6, and rook e7. Okay, but if you play something like queen to the f3, okay, then king to the h6, and if you play rook to the e7 in this case, then it will not be that much good because black has this queen c5 check, and you must come back, and if you come back, then rook into d7 will also fall, and if you play queen to the e3, then also it will be very difficult because queens will be exchanged and all your attack will be gone. So you need to be very precise in this position. You cannot give any chance to your opponent. Yes, Abhishek, you are right. P and John, you are also right. We should play rook to the c1, a very simple move, and next move we are threatening rook to the c5 check, and the king will be check and mate in that case. So after rook to the c1, black just resigned, because even if you play queen to the d7 in this case, we can play rook to the c5, and black's king is not having any squares in this case. So you can say, even though the position was so equal, means the pawns were equal, everything was equal, just because your opponent's blockader, that is the rook, was tied down for the pawn, the position became so much bad for black. Okay, yeah, rook c5 is a check. Rook c5 is a check to this king on h5. Okay, I don't know what you are looking at. So let's go to the next position. Let's see another thing. Like in this position, okay, this position is a little bit okay. We'll see this position. Okay, I will tell you, this game was played by our Asia's first grandmaster, Evgeny Torre. Okay, yeah, centralization won in the end. Definitely the centralization. So white was Evgeny Torre in this case. Okay, and here, okay, it was black's move. Black capture rook into b5. But even if the pawn was captured here, the thing is that there are two things in this position. First thing is, white has a passed pawn here, black has also passed pawn, but the king, Miss Black's king is little bit weak here because the queen is standing on this diagonal. Okay, now the pawn on d5 is a weakness. We know this thing, but we can create weaknesses, but we can attack the weaknesses which are already there in the black's camp. So obviously d5 pawn is hanging, but Torre in this position played rook to the c3, and there is no time to capture on d5, because if we capture on d5, then rook to the c8 will be done, and black will lose the queen in this case. Even if we play queen to the f8, we can play rook into f8, king into f8, and queen d5 will be played. So that is not something which will be done from black side. So he did not capture on d5. He played rook to the b8, defending against all the backline checkmates. Okay, so here he played rook to the c6, dislodging this queen from the blockading square. And we also know this thing, that the queen is a very powerful piece, but if it is given the job of the just like blockading the pawn, it is not that good, because queen is not a good blockader in this case. So queen was played to the d7 square. Now it's time to attack black's weakness. Can you tell me which is the weakness in black's camp? Which pawn is a weak pawn in this case, and how can you attack that pawn? Yes, a5 is a weakness, and that's why white decided to play rook to the a6, attacking the weak pawn on a5. And black played queen to the b5. Obviously, he wants to defend the pawn. But now we will play rook to the a7, and now the rook has come on the 7th rank. Okay, rook has come on the 7th rank, and we are putting some pressure on this square. So black decided, like black wanted to exchange the queens, so he played queen to the b4. But white is not going to exchange the queens, because if he exchange the queens in this case, then it will be a big blunder, because after a into b4, This pawn is a passed pawn and which will be backed up by this rook on the b8 square. So white is will be the one player who needs to defend in this position with the moves like rook to the a1 or something like that. And I will say that the black is already having a great position in this case. So obviously queen into b4 is not a good move. So my next question is, where will you play your queen? If you are not going to exchange the queens, where will you play? Because exchanging queens in this case, yes, f6. Abhishek, you are right about this move. We should play queen to the f6 because there is a weakness on the f7 square and we must attack the weaknesses in our opponent's camp. Okay, so he black obviously play rook to the f8 to defend the f7 pawn. Now it's time for us to play what? We should push our pawn. Whenever we have a passed pawn, we should try to push the pawn. Yes, Ranjit, you are also right about the move. Now the d6 is a much more natural move for us because one more thing is there, we are controlling the d8 square. So if we get the move like d7, then the d8 is not that much far in this case. Okay. So here black also should have played something like a4 and try to create his, like, utilize his own passed pawn because he has a passed pawn. So he should also push the passed pawn. But what happened is like black did not push the pawn. That would have given him at least the slight chance to fight in the game. Still, I will say that white is still better in this case because he has the chance of creating the second front with h4, h5 and h6. That is also one of the options which white has in this position. So black played queen to the b6 in this case. And after this, white played yet another move, that was rook to the e7. Now you will ask me why rook e7 is played in this case. Well, if you directly play d7, obviously your rook will be hanging in that case and it will not be good even if you are queening the pawn. Okay, even if you are queening the pawn, black will be having one extra pawn, so that is not something good. But white played rook to the e7 with the idea of d7 and then he can play rook to the e8 and then it will be a queening, like we can just queen the pawn on the next move. Okay, so that is the idea. So here black was little bit clever. Another thing is that white can even try to play queen to the e5 and he will play rook to the e8 because once the rooks are exchanged, the pawn will queen for sure. Finally, black realized that okay, I also have the pawn and he played a4 in this position. But we don't need to worry. What white played in this position was a little bit inaccuracy. What he should have done is like he should have played h4 move which I was suggesting earlier. Okay, if you play h4 in this position, then even if you play a5, sorry a3, then we can play h5. And obviously if you play g into h5, then we should not give this check, but what we should be doing in this case, we should utilize the rook on e7 and we should play rook to the e5. The rook will come on the g5 square and it will be a lost position for black. So gh5 is not working. If a2 is played in this case, then we can play h6 and the queen will be giving the check and mate on the g7 square. So this is what you should do when you have some advantage in the position. There is rook f7 sac. Yeah, rook into f7 sacrifice is also there. But when will you play the rook into f6 sac? The thing is that after queen to the b6, the problem is that after queen to the b6, you cannot push the pawn here because your queen is hanging on the f6 square. So that's why you should have played h4, h5. Abhishek, can you tell me where is the rook sacrifice on f7? When exactly? Okay, here in this position, as I mentioned earlier, h4, h5 was a very nice when the pawn was on d7. Okay, okay, when the pawn was on d7. Okay, fine. But he played queen to the e5 in this position and now black played a3. He got the chance. Now finally, as queen is on here, he played d7 and here in this position there was only one move by which black could have defended the position, that was by playing queen to the d8. And this kind of moves are a little bit difficult because going backward with your queen is always a difficult move. Okay, but he should have played that move, but he played queen to the c6. Okay, And after queen to the c6, white played one very amazing move. No, here now rook e8 is not working. That is what the point is. Rook e8 will not work because queen into d7 will be played. But to make everything work, white played a nice move in this position. Can you find out what did Torre play in this position from white side? Rook e8 is definitely not working because d7 pawn is a weakness. It is hanging. So we should try to, as I mentioned earlier also, you should, when you have some kind of advantage on one side of the board, you should try to create the second front. So how will you try to, like, how will you open up the second front in this case? It is the, it is also called as the principle of two weaknesses. You already have some weakness on the d file. No. Rook f7 if you play, then it will not be good because I can simply capture with the king here. I will not capture with the rook. I'll capture with the king, and you don't have any checks. Yes, Abhishek, you are right in this case. Karthik, you are also right. We should play f5 and we should try to create the second front in this case. Because if you play g into f5 in this case, then we will give the check, queen to the g3 check, okay? And after queen to the g3, king to the h8 will come. And now we can play rook into f7 in this case. Because if he captures here, then we have d8 queen check and then it will lead to a checkmate. Or instead of instead of queen into like instead of this move, we can now play rook to the e8 also. This is the point of playing f5. Okay, by playing f5, what he did, like if gf5 is played, now rook e8 was his planning. Previously if you directly play rook to the e8, then queen into d7, there was nothing from white side. But by playing f5, what it is, like he is asking his opponent to play g into f5, and once you play g into f5, we can play rook to the d8. And now queen d7 is not working because queen g3 check will come, and because this file is opened up, okay, this file is opened up, we will be forced to play this c, and rook f8 will be a check and mate. So this is the clear cut case of opening the second front. Okay, so and also the pawn on d7, although it did not queen, but because of that pawn, all black's pieces were a little bit tied down. Okay, yes, second weakness, f5 to create the weaker pawn. Yes, Mayur, you are also right, and Karthik, you are also right. Abhishek, you are also right in this case. Definitely. Hello, Vaibhav is also here. Hello, Vaibhav. Now we will see, as we were talking about the creating the second weakness or something like that. Now we will see one more game. Okay, here black played queen to the b7. Okay, in this position you can see that, okay, if you see the pawn structure, then black has three pawn islands in this case, one, two, three, and white has one, this on the king side, and one on the queen side. So if you consider the pawn structure, I will say, okay, in this case white has better pawn structure than black. Okay, the a6 pawn is a weakness, plus the pawn on d6 can be a potential weakness in this case. Okay, so here, although this position is just slightly better for white, white will try to create more weaknesses in the opponent's camp. So before we start with our game, I would like to tell you that white player in this case was Ifin Geller, and his opponent was Tukmako, who also trained many good players including Anish Giri. Okay, queen d3, rook c a1. Okay, you want to play queen to the d3, Vaibhav. Okay, queen d3 if you play, then what about queen into b2? The pawn on b2 is hanging in this case, and I don't think so that you should give up the pawn on b2, because we need to protect our pawn, because the a6 pawn, which is a weakness which will not run away anytime, we can attack the a6 pawn maybe after some time. Okay, Okay, after this you are saying rook to the b1. Okay, you want to play rook to the b1 in this case, but I can play rook into c3. Again, I am attacking your queen. If you capture on b2, I will capture on d3. Yes, Vladimir Tukmoko, I said. So the tactics will not work in that case. Here, Efim Geller decided to play in a very calm way. What he thought, like, I have only one weakness, that is the pawn on b2. But black has more weaknesses and his pawn structure is also a little bit bad. So he played queen to the e2, just playing calmly. All these old players, or you can say the strong players of the past, they used to play with a very calm head. Once they understand that strategically their position is good, they will not hurry in that position. They, even if they know that they should play this decision, they will wait for some time. They will even wait, or you can say that by waiting they are showing their opponent like, okay, who is dominating in the position. Even if I wait, you cannot do anything. And that puts your opponent into psychological pressure. That like he will say, like, if you are playing against a very strong player, and even if you are trying to do, and your opponent is just waiting, and you are not able to do a dent in his camp, then you will feel like, okay, my position seems to be very bad, I can't even do anything. So this is a psychological battle which you need to play. Even Carlson also does this thing all the time. He will just wait for his opponent. He will not do anything. And when your opponent will be impatient because everybody wants to do something in the position, you cannot sit still. Okay. So that is something which is psychological. So he is just playing queen to the e2, waiting for his opponent. And also the a6 pawn is always a weakness. We don't need to attack it immediately. So our doing thing, that is our urge to do something in each and every position, sometimes is not good. We should learn to wait. We should learn to be still, and even being still is also doing something, but it is actually not having any negative effect. Okay, so he played rook to the c6, protecting the pawn on a6, and now we will build up the pressure on the a6 pawn. And here black got a little bit impatient, because even if you play d5 in this position, the pawn on d5 will be lost. Okay, so how on earth he is going to protect the pawn on a6? Okay, okay. So here the best move for black was to play rook to the b6, putting more pressure on the b2 pawn, which was a weakness in this case. Okay, and that would have been, you can say that the position is after b4, the still. Okay, after queen to the e2 you are saying, right? d5 you want to play in this case. Here the d5 pawn. Okay, what about if I attack the pawn with rook to the d1? This is the case of hanging pawns, you can say. And if you are moving your hanging pawns, then you will not be able to protect them if both the pawns are weak. If hanging pawns are there, especially the connected hanging pawns, you need to be in a position where you should be at least protect them quite confirmly. Like here rook to the d1, and you cannot protect it with the rook d6 because the pawn on e5 will fall. And you cannot protect with the rook, then I think a d5 pawn will fall. I think d5 is not that good, right? Or do you have any better option after rook to the d1? Can black play anyway to protect the pawn? The pawn will fall, right? Yeah. So okay, he did not play. That's why I did not consider it. But even if d5 was played, I think it was the case. So he played rook to the c6, and rook c1 was played, and then black got a little bit. Yeah, one of the teeth is going to fall. It is like the two teeth. Krishna, you are right about the analogy. So black got little bit impatient in this position, and he tried to play something. So he played e4 in this case. And after f into e4, finally he played rook to the b6. Because by playing this move, he he thought that, okay, I am attacking on the e4 pawn, I am attacking on the b2 pawn. What will happen? Okay, black is going to recover the pawn, but the thing is that as the pawn is gone, Still there is a weakness on d6, still there is a weakness on a6. That is the thing. Okay, he played b4. Obviously we are not going to give up the pawn. Black played rook into e4, he recovered the pawn, and now he played queen to the f2. Still I will say that the white has slight advantage. He's not having any decisive advantage till now in this position. And black played rook to the e8 because there were some back rank checks and everything. He tried to stop it. White played rook to the f5 because he wants to exchange one of the rooks. He played queen to the c7. Now he played queen d4. Yet another good move because now queen is centralized. Okay, the pawn on g7 is also being attacked, and okay, the rook is still not going to do anything big in this position. He played rook to the c6, attacking the pawn on c3. Now my question for you is like, what will you play? Your opponent is attacking the pawn on c3. Okay, so what you should play? Should you play something defensive move with the move like rook to the f3 and defend the pawn, or you should play something active in this position, threatening something of your own? And I will tell you, if Im Geller played one active move in this position, he threatened something to his opponent. So what do you think he played in this position? Well, if you want to play rook to the f7 in this position, the thing is that Karthik, rook a1, okay, rook a1, okay, rook a1, definitely we should play rook a1 with the threat of rook to the f7. The g7 pawn will be hanging. So black is not going to have any chance to play rook into c3 because rook f7 will be a very strong move, and we will at least win the queen in that case. So obviously he played queen to the e7 in this position because he wants to play queen to the e5 on the next move. So here he played rook to the f3, king h7 was played, and white played rook to the d5. Now slowly and gradually the pawn on d6 is being attacked. So black played rook e c8, putting more pressure on the c3 pawn. And here in this position white played a very extraordinary move. Okay, this kind of moves are, you can say, the trademark moves of Kramnik, because if you understand your opponent's threat, like what he wants to do in this position, then you will understand that maybe at some point your opponent wants to give checks on the e1 square. You want to give one check on the e1 square, and if you just stop all the checks, if you play a very simple move in this position, that is the king to the h2, this is a prophylactic move because white doesn't need to do anything in this position. Means he doesn't need to like go for the all out attack. He can play slowly and gradually. Okay, because if you play queen to the if you allow queen to the e1 check, the thing is that the c3 pawn will be attacked by three pieces. Okay, Damon Beast. Hello. Yeah, Kramnik's trademark. He used to play in a prophylactic way, and that's why King H2 should be played in this position. Getting away is a cold, yes, it is a cold-blooded murder like move, you can say. And there is one very famous game by Kramnik which he played against Kasparov. In that game also he played king to the h2, which just stopped everything. That was his first victory against Kasparov. If you Google it or something like that, then you will get to know about that game. In that game he played king to the h2, and that's why king h2 was famous because of Kramnik. Okay. Here, black played queen to the c7 in this case, and after queen to the c7, then he played queen to the e4 check, then king h8 was played, and now it's time to build up more pressure with queen to the e6. And here finally he played rook to the c3, but now it's time to bring your rook on the 7th rank. He played rook to the f7, and now, okay, we have all the pieces around black's king, and there are going to be tactics in this case. So black played queen to the c4, and now it's time to Krishna he went moves like king h2. Okay, so queen to the g6, and we are threatening queen to the g7 check and mate. Opponent played rook to the g8 to stop everything. And now can you tell me the final move of this game by which white just finished off black's game? The final move. Which move will you play? Okay, this is not a tactical move, but I will say that it will lead to tactics. Rook h5. Yes, Mayur, you should play rook to the h5 in this position. Yes, definitely. Rook h5 should be played so that on the next move you are going to play rook h6. If gs6 is played, then queen into h6 or queen h7 is also a check and mate in this case. Yes, P and John, you are also right about this move. So I think like from the games which we looked at today, we have understood some of the important factors in when we are playing with the major pieces. One important factor we saw that we should control the open file with our rooks and queens. Another thing is that when we have a passed pawn, in those cases the defender side, which is having the blockader, that is the rook or the queen, is not a good defender because there will be always tactical themes on the back rank. Okay. Then another thing which we saw that if the king is weak in that case, then the powerful pieces that the rook and the queen will be like very much powerful than any other piece on the board. So that's why king safety is also very important when we are playing against the queen and the rook. That is the major pieces on the board. And one more thing for the defense also, we saw that whenever we get the chance, we should be able to give perpetual check if it's possible for us, because if your king is weak, your position is bad, you should not worry too much, because there might be a chance from your side that you will get to give the perpetual check in that case. Okay. Is the century stream tonight? Tonight there will not be a stream because the chess dudes are busy with another stream. They are going to have stream with Nuber Shah Sheikh and Siddhant Mohapatra. They are going to play some chess variant, I think. So I think they will be there. But let's see. But I will just tell you that you guys were there for this series of mastering the middle game with me, and I hope you enjoyed, because I had planned for 11 days and I will take a break for few days, but in meantime I will be uploading videos about other things. I'll continue with my other series of videos, and we will meet maybe in the next week or something with something more interesting stuff. Okay. Okay, so guys, please share the channel if you like it, and there are other things also to support me. You can donate to my channel also, and keep watching the video. We will be meeting with some interesting stuff. Okay. Okay, thank you. Mantrala, I have not got your email till now. Please check my email ID, whichever you have sent. It is atuldahale64 at the rate gmail.com. Okay. For few days I'll be taking break from tomorrow. We have the 11th day for the morning class. I will complete it. Please check the email ID which you have sent. Okay. And after that I will have some few days of gap, and after that we will see if I want to continue. I will continue with the middle game theme, or maybe I will come up with something opening series also. Let's see. We'll see what is your opinion. You can always comment in the comment section after the video also, so that I will know like what do you want me to stream about, what type of videos. Please do comment on the videos also. Okay. Not in the here chat, but in the videos I am saying, like if you like something, if you have any suggestions, you can always give me suggestions on my videos. Okay. Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Abhishek. Thank you everyone in the stream. Thank you for joining me also. So we'll meet. See you. Good night. Good night. Good night.